So you think you want to quit your job, and you might be right. You might need to quit your job and do something different. But I want to give you a slightly different perspective on how you might be feeling and the things to explore if you're having this feeling before you run in and hand your notice into your boss. And I think the first thing to understand is in our society in this day and age, our identity is very linked to our job. If you go to a party and you're meeting people for the first time and you ask them, hi, how are you? What do you do? Or what are you? And the response is always going to be, I'm an accountant, I'm a lawyer, I'm a banker, I work in HR, I'm a receptionist. People very, very strongly, a lot of people link their identity to their job. So the first thing to recognize is you're very invested in your job, and you're probably giving your job a lot of weight in your life. So the first thing is to really recognize that and think, okay, is it my job that I want to change, or is it part of my identity? Is it how people want to see me? Is it how I want to spend my time? So really getting clear on how much your job defines you, and I think you'll find it is way more than you think it is. And how your job defines you is not actually representative of you. So for example, when I was a lawyer, if I said to people, I'm a lawyer, that wasn't very representative of me. My personality isn't your typical lawyer. The things that really make me passionate were nothing to do with law. Whereas if I said I'm a horse riding yogi with an addiction to almond butter, that is way more representative of my personality. I love nature, I love being outdoors, I love being active, I have a spiritual side, I like healthy eating, I become addicted to things I love. That's kind of me in a nutshell. Whereas saying I'm a lawyer, people don't know anything about me from that really, other than probably I went to university and studied a lot, and maybe make some assumptions about how I'm a kind of boring perfectionist, which maybe I am, but that's not how I want to see myself anyway. So the first thing is to really step away from your job defining you. You need to be able to detach from your job and see it for what it is. First thing, once you've worked out how much weight you've put on it, is to really just start to detach from the job being the be-all and end-all of your life. Start to see it as something you are doing. It is your source of salary. Hopefully there are parts of it that you enjoy. Hopefully there are parts of it that you are good at. But start really seeing it as that. And this concept of kind of done is good enough. Do your job, do it as well as you need to do it, but don't beat yourself up every time you get something wrong or you get a slightly negative piece of feedback, and don't feel that in order to be good at your job you need to be spending 12 hours a day there, because quite likely the opposite is true. And there are a lot of things that tie into that, and getting more efficient with your time, and really setting boundaries at work, and that is with other people and with yourself. So if you can't take on a piece of work, say no. And I was chatting to a girlfriend in the spa about this the other day, because she'd taken on something that she then realised she didn't have time to do. And a technique that I heard from a podcast I was listening to, if you're not sure or if you don't feel comfortable saying no, say, can I have a think about it, come back to you in a couple of days. That's much easier than saying no when you're put on the spot. Then gives you a couple of days to think, okay, why do I want to say no? What are my reasons why? And then go back and say, well, I'm saying no because of X, Y, and Z. And you can present it in a way that makes sense to the person you're saying no to. So it's a really good little technique for saving you when you're on the spot, and then allowing you to say no when you might have struggled before. So really starting to see your job differently to how you are now. Your job isn't what defines you. The most important things in your life, I would imagine, are your significant other, if you have one, your family, your friends. And what do they care about? They care about how you show up for them. They care about how much you love them, how much time you spend with them, how your mood is when you're with them. They don't really care. A lot of my friends don't even know what I do. Even when I was a lawyer, they still didn't know what that meant day to day. I still don't know what some of my best friends for 10 years really do on a day-to-day level at work, and I don't really care, to be honest. As long as it's making them happy, then that's fine. What I care about is when they show up, we have a good time, we laugh, we joke, we have time to meet up. So really starting to think what's important to you, and chances are the things that are important to you are separate from your job, and you don't need to tie the two together. So you can start to detach from your job. And I was speaking to a good friend here in Dubai at the weekend, and a few months ago she was having problems sleeping, she was having a lot of anxiety, and she said she's just reframed how she looked at her job, and it helped that she got some really good feedback from work, but she realised that she didn't need to be slogging away, worrying about stuff, stressing about an email she hadn't sent late at night. She turns up at 9:30, leaves at 6:30, gets done everything that she needs to do, and then she goes. And changing that perspective, I could just see it transformed her, and that's mirrored in how she's now sleeping, how she's able to go to the gym more, do this spin class that she loves. So it's really interesting to see how when you detach from that job, you naturally find a lot more time to do the things that you want to do. And also, once you start to detach from the job and step away and set your boundaries, you can then start defining your job rather than your job defining you. And what does this mean? This means taking a realistic assessment of your job at the moment, the bits that you like, the bits that you don't like, and what you can change. How can you do more of the bits that you like? And that might be literally as simple as sitting down with whoever gives you that work that you like, or if you're creating it for yourself, who are those clients that are bringing that in, and concentrating on them, saying, I want to build up this area of my job. Can you give me more work? Is there anything more I can do for you as a client? I'm really starting to build that up. And the more you build that up, the more you then don't have time to do some of the aspects you don't like. And if you get clear on setting your boundaries, you'll naturally start to sway your job and mold it into more of the things that you do like. Now, the things that you don't like, there's always going to be aspects, turning up, getting up at 8 a.m. Of your job that you don't like. So you need to have a think about, can you simply get rid of some of those? Because quite often there are bits that we just don't need to do, that we feel we need to do. So looking at stuff and saying, do I really need to be doing this? Can I get rid of it? One way of getting rid of it is to delegate it to someone else. If you've got more junior members in your team, can you give it to them? Have you got a secretary or an administrator or an office manager that you can get to help you with certain things? Is there technology? There's so many good apps there now. Can you get them to do the hard work for you? So really think about what you can get rid of and what you can delegate. And the things that you are left with, how can you make them better? One of the easiest ways to do this is to simply give yourself a reward every time you do them. Try not to make this have a chocolate bar, but instead, okay, once I've done that task, I'm going to go and have a 20-minute coffee with my friend. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to browse ASOS for 25 minutes. And then every time you do those things that you don't like, give yourself the reward. And that actually starts to retrain your mind into associating the things you don't like with a reward, and then you'll actually be motivated to do them. So it's a really good little trick, and you can apply that for everything in life, doing your laundry, washing the dishes, whatever. This kind of reward psyche will completely change how your mind views that thing. So getting really clear on what you do like and what you don't like. And this is what I did with my role as a lawyer. When I started to realise that I wasn't 100% happy with my role, I thought, okay, what are the aspects that I really enjoy? And simply went to my boss and sat down and said, these are the aspects I really enjoy. This is what I want to concentrate on. And we worked out a plan as to how I could do that. And that eventually meant bringing someone else into the team, and I shifted my role to focus away from more corporate matters onto employment matters, which actually within law is quite a big shift of practice area. But by talking it through, by simply asking, which a lot of us are scared to do, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, you're no worse off than you were before. So really just working out what you actually enjoy and doing more of that. You can reframe your job, and then you may find that you're actually enjoying your job, and you don't need to quit. And then the other aspect, once you've kind of detached from your job and you've stopped your job defining you, is that you can then start to define yourself. And this is quite fun. And for this, you really need to think about what you want to be defined as, what's important to you, what are your priorities in life, and what are you making time for? Because a lot of the time we think we don't have time for stuff. That's never ever true. We've all got the same amount of hours in the day. You are choosing how you spend that time. Every single minute of every single day, you are choosing how you spend that time. And if you are stuck in the office, you're choosing to be stuck in the office. You could walk out, but you're choosing to stay in there because you're afraid of the consequences of walking out. The work doesn't get done, your boss is angry, your clients aren't happy. So recognizing that every single minute of every single day is your choice can really be life transforming. So when you think you don't have time for your priorities, I would get you to question where you are spending your time, because chances are, say you are into art and you want to do painting, you're probably sitting on social media, on Netflix, watching the TV for an hour and a half in an evening. I think that's a fairly realistic assumption from a lot of the people that I know. That's an hour and a half that you could be painting. You are choosing not to do that. And I think a lot that ties in with this, and I know definitely how I felt when I was working full-time corporate, is you simply don't have the energy to do things. You know, you want to go to the gym, but you get back and you're exhausted, and it's then very hard to motivate yourself to go to the gym. So really taking a look at your energy levels can be really useful here. Diet is essential, sleeping, but also things give you energy. So actually, even though you might feel you're too tired to go to the gym, notice how you feel after you do go to the gym, because chances are it's actually giving you more energy, and you come back and you're more motivated to cook, and you're in a better mood, and you're more motivated to do something fun with your friends or your partner. So really look at what feeds into your energy, what gives you energy, and it may seem slightly counterproductive in that you're doing something active. So for example, I get a lot of energy from riding, but I expel a lot of energy to ride. So getting energy doesn't mean you have to go and have a massage for an hour, or you need to sit down quietly for an hour, or that you need to eat, but more that you're feeding things that make you feel good, and that's going to give you energy. So I would encourage you to just push through when you think you're too tired to do something. If it's something you really want to do, chances are it will actually boost your energy and it will make you feel better. And as you start to work out what your priorities are, focus on where you're spending your time, and do more with that, then the things outside of your job are going to start to define you more. And then I would encourage you to change your language. So rather than being a lawyer or a banker or an HR specialist, become a lawyer who loves golf, become a yogi banker, become an HR specialist who loves astrology. Give yourself something else that defines you, and use that when you talk to other people. And it might seem a bit strange to start with, but actually if you're meeting a stranger, if they suddenly say they have a passion for astrology, that's way more interesting than talking about what they do in their day job. So it actually gives you really good conversation starters, and the more you start to use that language, the more you'll start to define yourself differently. And hopefully if you kind of encompass all of these techniques, you'll work out, do you actually want to quit your job? And even if you do still want to quit your job and do a different career, you'll have got much clearer on the aspects of your job that you enjoy and don't enjoy, which will give you a better indication of what to look for in your next role. And also you'll have had time to kind of prioritize doing more of what you love, and start defining yourself differently, and stop looking as your job and your career and your work as the be all and end all of who you are, what you want to do. And if you do decide you still want to quit your job, I've got a great article on finding your passion on my website, and you can always book a free half-an-hour session with me, and we can just have an initial chat and help you get some clarity on that. So I hope that's useful, and if you have one takeaway today, I would say go and find some time to prioritize something outside of work. Just one thing.